Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Exciting day. Not your normal signing day like in years past, but an exciting day. It's been a hectic first month, but we've accomplished a lot. Top priorities for us was really twofold. Number one is developing relationships with our players that are currently on our roster. And second thing was solidifying those guys that signed in December. And a lot of credit to our staff. And now when I say staff, I'm not talking about just our assistant coaches, but everybody that's involved in recruiting. When a young person comes on our campus, we're able to hold on to all 18 guys that signed, that were part of that December signing class, and had little to no attrition on our current football team. So a lot of credit to all those individuals. Our second priority was really to fill some slots of what we felt like were immediate needs on our current roster. Relationships and recruiting are critical, and if you look at the guys we've added over not only today but transfer quarterback, those are individuals we had long relationships with. And today's about the signees. It's about this recruiting class. I know you all have a lot of questions about staffing, about current players, and all those type of things. I promise you we're going to give you an opportunity to ask those, but today's going to be about recruiting. So I appreciate y'all being here, and with that I'm going to open up to questions about this recruiting class.
You'll start with those 16 December signees, and do you almost have to re-recruit them? How did you approach, keeping them in the fold?
Yeah, well, the way we approached it is look at them as new recruits, without a doubt. We want people who want to be here. We thought it was critical. It's a unique situation. I think it's only happened one other time at the Power 5 level. I think when Kevin Sumlin was hired in Arizona, he had a similar situation in the fact that a group of players signed in December under a previous coach, and then he took the job after that signing day. So not a lot of precedent. So what we did is we went about re-recruiting those guys. And either myself or someone on our staff went and visited each one of those student athletes. And then we were able to host those guys through the NCAA rules on the second official visit for most of them. And so just by building a relationship, not only with them, but with their families or the people that are really important to them, they felt comfortable with West Virginia. They felt comfortable with a lot of the pieces of why they chose West Virginia. We're still here. We're still common with our staff, and they just needed some reassurance and just to be around and spend time with our staff. So that's how we approached it. And like I said, a lot of credit to our staff. We were able to keep all those guys, and I'm excited about it. I thought the previous staff did a really good job identifying talent, and not only on the playing field but also academically. And these are good kids.
Noticed you got 3 defensive players. Was that coincidental, or was that by need, or how did you determine 3 guys?
So the way we kind of started this is, as you meet with your players and you watch a little bit of video, really honestly not a ton. Had some of our young coaches put together basically kind of a highlight, low light tape on the guys that were currently on our team. So tried to get a vision of what some needs were. And we need some. We signed a lot of receivers in the December signing date. We're in a little bit odd situation in our defensive backfield where only lost a couple, but we got a lot of guys that are going to be seniors. So we felt like we needed to add some guys in the defense secondary, and we did. And then defensive alignment or something you can't have enough defensive alignment. So I thought it was critical too. Y'all can do the math. We've got 3 spots left open in this class. I think the mistake that a lot of people make when you take a job, when you make a transition and you're trying to do your first recruiting class, is you really reach, or you sign guys that you don't know about. The recruiting process is so long now. It's upwards of 2 years, and part of that 2-year process, there's usually quite a few in-person evaluations where you see a kid practice, or you see a kid play, or even you have him in camp and you see him in live evaluations, and you get to know them on multiple campus visits. Well, you don't have that opportunity when you take, especially in a different geographic region. So we were careful. We do have 3 open spots. You guys are going to learn about this with us. I'm always looking for ways to improve our roster. We have 2 signing days, but we're always looking to improve our roster. And I think it's important that you have some open spots where if something happens, you're able to add a critical piece.
Have you decided what needs that may still be there, where you'll be looking in particular with these last 3?
Yeah, well, I think that we have 2. And I'm careful how to answer this because we've only really had 1 team worked out with our team. We worked out yesterday morning. We're going to work out tomorrow morning as well. can't do any necessarily football specific work with them, but we do get an opportunity to see how they follow directions, see what kind of leadership we have, how do they change directions, what kind of explosiveness do they have, and some different agility drills. I do know this just from a scholarship number standpoint. We have some depth issues on the offensive line and the defensive line.
Coach, when you got here, you said you were going to really focus on West Virginia and focus on the region. How did you hit the ground running on that, and how successful did you think you were?
Well, I think a lot of that, and we're going to do that. Whether it shows in this recruiting class or not, it will be determined, honestly. We're excited about Kerry Martin. You know, I think he's a great kid, and really looking forward from Capital. Really looking forward to working with him. And glad he's part. He's actually an early enrollee, so he's already here. But a lot of it was just getting in schools in the state. You know, if you look at it, and I think you can talk to high school coaches in the state. We were able to get into a ton of high schools here in the state, develop relationships with those guys. That's something that we'll continue to do so. And you know, whatever happens later today, we've made a pretty valiant run.
When you sit with your staff and you evaluate how you did recruiting, obviously this class is to be determined. You don't know that. When you go back and you look back, is there a target number, like how many contributors that you look at to gauge how successful you were?
Well,
and hit on half of them, or
no, I think you better be better than that.
Better be better than half.
Yeah, we better be better than half. I think what you do is you hear people and throughout college football day, you know, however many Division I coaches are, they're having these press conferences, and you're hearing, hey, we're excited about them, best class, and you know, all those superlatives. And a lot of times you feel like that is the correct answer, but the truth of the matter won't be known for 3 or 4 years down the road. I think what you do is you have to have critical evaluations. So what we do is we have a staff retreat in the spring, so we go and that's one thing we do is we evaluate the last 3 or 4 recruiting classes. Now obviously we only have one to evaluate. We won't have a whole lot of data to do that on, but you have to constantly evaluate what went right, but also what went wrong. And I think you look at the geographic fit. You look if you take any of that risk. You know, did it work out? Okay, what went wrong? But I think you got to constantly evaluate that. And there is a science to it, without a doubt.
You mentioned trying to evaluate the current players to assess future needs. How much more difficult is that because you haven't seen them doing things that you might change?
Well, you get a good grasp of what they can do athletically, and that's the biggest thing. You know, the schematic changes are, you know, I think you'll have an opportunity to ask Vic the same thing. And offensively, defensively, and special teams, we're going to put our kids in the best situation to possibly be successful. So whatever their strengths are, we're going to steer our schemes toward fitting their strengths. But really, that's why we have 3 open spots, quite frankly. We could have gone out and used those. There's probably players that we could have signed. But I think you got to be real careful because we want to give ourselves the best opportunity to win next fall. And I think we're better served by holding on those spots till we see what our true product is in spring ball.
Your last staff leaned heavily on various forms of transfers. You didn't seem to have a ton of those at Troy. What's your philosophy on grad transfers? You've already got one here.
Yeah,
JUCOs and just regular transfers.
So I think that you're always looking to improve your roster, which I've already said. I think transfer is the one way. I think junior college recruiting done the correct way can really be fruitful. And what I mean by that, I think that there's a couple different ways you recruit junior college. You know, one way is you realize you have a need in the fall and you just go out, whether it's a couple weeks in the December signing period or a couple weeks in January, and you try to just go find the best player and you don't really know a whole lot about them. Or you go through and you treat it like high school recruiting where you get to know them over the course of a year. A lot of times you track them in high school and then you follow them to whatever junior college they're at and you have a long relationship with them and you understand, you know, why they're there. That's the way we choose to do it, quite frankly. I think if you look at our success rate at Troy with junior college transfers, it was extremely high. Now we've got to figure out how this university works. But I think when you're recruiting junior college, you have to have a longer relationship than just a couple weeks. And I think it's the same when you're looking at any transfer. You know, Austin Kendall is a prime example. So we're excited to have Austin. Austin is a guy that I had a previous relationship with his family. We recruited Austin when I was at the University of Kentucky as the offensive coordinator. His brother Ryan played for me my last year there as a receiver at the University of Kentucky, knew his mom and dad. So when he became available, that made sense. You know, I knew him personally, knew his family, and I think there has to be a relationship with those transfers. You know, you just don't take them because they're available.
How important was it from a depth standpoint to bring in a graduate transfer with Trey playing baseball and likely maybe missing some practice?
I think that was as big a factor as anything. We only had 2 on scholarship, you know, so I got a lot of trust in Jack Allison, and I like Trey. Trey's playing baseball, so his availability in the spring, depending on how baseball's going, could be limited. And we got to have more guys in that room. You know, I think that's college football. You know, there's so many. The game's played so fast in this league. You play so many plays. You better have at least three quarterbacks in that room who are capable of playing. So that was probably need number one, is we needed to add a quarterback. And I thought we were very fortunate to get a guy in Austin who I feel like has been really well schooled. Played in a couple of different high school programs where the level of coaching is at a high level. He was with Lincoln the last couple of years, and I have a lot of respect for him and his ability to teach. He sat in a room with 2 Heisman Trophy winners. I think that's important. He's got a quick release, really strong arm. He can create plays with his feet. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a runner, but I think he's a good enough athlete that he creates plays with his feet. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great competition as we move into spring and the fall camp.
What is it about these 3 men that you felt that you wanted here?
Yeah, I'll just talk about all 3 of these guys individually. So if you look at Jordan Jefferson, Jordan JJ is from Navarre, Florida, and a guy that Navarre, so you'll know geographically, is about 2 hours away from Troy. So he's a kid that we've really known since he was a freshman, end of his freshman year, going to a sophomore year in high school. He's a big physical thing that I like about him. He's got a calm demeanor. He's never too high. He's never too low. Great family. His dad, you'll see him. His dad looks like he needs to be playing. He can play some D-line for us right now too. He's a strong guy, but a great family, and he got better every year. You know, if you look at his junior film, it's really good. Look at his senior year, you understand why his recruiting really exploded like it did, especially in the last 6 weeks. So long relationship. We've had him in camp. We've seen him multiple times live. Our defensive line coach Jordan Leslie was his lead recruiter, and he's a guy that I think has an opportunity to be a plus player on the defensive line in this league, and he's versatile. He can play nose or the 3 technique. If you look at Tavion or Tate Mayo, he's from Lee County, Georgia. At Troy, we had two Lee County guys on our team, 2 really good players from Lee County. Vic Coney, our defensive coordinator, he recruited that school at Troy. They won, I think, back-to-back state championships. And I'm pretty sure that's correct. Dean Fabrizio is the head coach. They play at a high level. We've known about Tay for a long time. I think he actually watched a couple games of ours at Troy when he came to watch his friends. And so we knew about him, and the logo switch was very effective. And he had a relationship with the previous staff. He'd actually taken an official visit here, so he liked West Virginia. So we were able to close that late, and that was an important pickup for us. And if you look at, we're really rising seniors now at that corner position, and he's athletic, he can run. He's going to have an opportunity to come in and compete right away, and he has a chance to be a starter here for several years. And then the last guy is a young man by the name of Rasheen Lynn. And Rasheen is 6'4 plus, almost 6'5". He's got a ton of skill set. He has as much upside as anybody in this class. Played a lot of receiver and DB in high school. We're going to start him off in the secondary as a safety. And as you all know, you can't have too many DBs in the Big 12. He's a guy that has length. And we can try as hard as we want to coach it, but you either have length or you don't, and he's big, and he's long, and he has an opportunity to play that center field position on defense and really cover a lot of ground in the back end. So excited about him.
Curious, of the guys that you inherited in December, did you have any prior relationships with any of them?
Yeah,
so you had to introduce yourself to all of them.
Yeah, no, the guys in the Southeast, you know, at Troy it was a unique recruiting. We really only recruited about a 4.5-hour radius, so that's unique in college football. I mean, probably one of the most unique situations, really. But we did. Most of these guys from the Southeast, like it's Taj Austin, who's already here. We knew about him at Coleman, a really productive player. Jared Bartlett is a kid that we identified a year ago in spring as a guy that could be kind of a Mike linebacker, edge rusher. So we liked him. We saw him. I think Jordan Leslie watched him practice last spring. If you talk about going down to Tony Mathis, you know, I laughed when I called Tony after getting his job. I said, man, you know, most of the time players come to coaches. You know what I mean? Like this coach had to go to the player because Tony was like our #1 running back guy at Troy forever. And, you know, of course, he got multiple Power 5 offers, so we didn't have a whole lot of success getting him at Troy. But he's a guy that I love the way he ran, so we had a relationship with him. Obviously knew his game. Drayshawn Miller, a corner that was from Kennesaw, that went to junior college, who's here now on campus. We'd known about him when he was in high school. Winston Wright is a guy that we saw multiple times live I think he was at 2 different satellite camps that I was at over the summer. So we knew about him, and we had a relationship with him as well. So several of these guys, Nick Troy Fortune's another guy that we knew about being in the Southeast. So a lot of these guys we had relationships, either myself personally or our assistant coaches had a relationship with those guys. So that was definitely a positive.
Guys you didn't know, how'd you go about assessing them to make sure they fit what you want to do?
Yeah, well, it wasn't as much about assessing as I felt like our role was they'd already made decisions. You know, and I tried to put myself in their shoes, honestly, is, okay, here's a young man. I always talk about recruiting. You know, last night I talked to all these guys that were going to sign today, and I told them, I said, hey, tomorrow's a big day. It's a culmination of your high school career, but also it's just the start of your college career. And you kind of flip the page, and you kind of go into what's next mode. You know, what's in the past is in the past. It's kind of what's next. And all these guys that signed in December, they already flipped that page. And so, you know, you try to put yourself in their shoes and understand that their whole world just got shook up. You know, coaching change had happened. They didn't ask for it. So what we did is we just went, to me it wasn't about us making a decision. It was about us investing in that relationship because they'd already made the decision. Athletically, I think all of them fit to what we want to do. It was about making sure that they felt comfortable with the situation here. Now, we weren't going to hold any of them hostage. We wanted them all to be here, but we wanted to make sure that they wanted to be here, and we gave them that opportunity by not only coming to visit, but also us going to their territory as well.
Given your statement about where the Troy and that footprint, were some of your assistant coaching hires based on, hey, knowing that you're going to have to expand that a little bit here?
Well, we are going to have to expand, and I think, and we can talk about this here. We'll do something media-wise when we kind of announce the assistant coaches of the group. But I think what you'll see from a recruiting philosophy here is going to be, you know, all the states that touch West Virginia, all the states that touch West Virginia, we want to have a really strong recruiting presence. And this is going to be everybody with on our staff is going to have a primary recruiting area within that geographic footprint. And then we'll go in to the Southeast, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, probably into some Mississippi junior colleges, some Kansas junior colleges where we have really strong relationships and a good brand. West Virginia has a good brand, and then we're obviously well known from a coaching standpoint.